This is one of Tel Aviv's giving. Somebody actually left a pizza. Now, it's warm weather, so you can imagine what will happen to the pizza soon. It's not really edible. But anyway, there's some clothes. People leave clothes on benches, which is completely absurd because there's a box. But you know, this is no law land. Do whatever you want. Friday is usually such a relief because during the week you cannot walk down the street. There's bicycles, electrical bicycles, basically speeding by with children. This morning I had the pleasure of being cursed by a father as I cynically commented, what a great education, as he speeded in a red light with two children without helmets in a very busy street full of traffic. He screamed at me, "Shut up," which is not a very nice way to talk to a woman twice his age, who might be a teacher of his children, who knows, but yet he allows himself to speak without any sort of manners in a way that is rare to find in a Western country. This is not really a Western country, you see, for many reasons. People always say to me if I feel a sense of estrangement. Well, in Europe, to be honest, human beings are very easy not to feel familiar with. Human beings are selfish and full of ego, and it's very difficult to find the few that are not. And for some reason, people who live in the city have absolutely no regard for other human beings when going on a bike. I mean, why would anyone, look at this narrow sidewalk, anybody go by bike? Why would anybody take their children to school on a bike without helmets, sometimes with a speeding dog, not caring if the dog gets run over? And just so you realize it, the people who live in this area are above average in terms of incomes. They can easily afford another way of bringing their kids to school besides bicycles, which you might think are ecological, but not when you consider that there are, statistics say, there are people over 65 that have been hit by bikes. So that's not very ecological, is it? The reason they ride the bikes is not because they care about the environment, because the number of cars parked here on the sidewalks on any given day proves that they do have cars as well. But it is a way of getting rid of nervous energy and fitness, and that's fine as long as you don't take children who are helpless without helmets, who can fall and have damage that cannot be undone. You know, when a child's head hits the cement or a street, I don't think you can do much about it. And they just take such risks. Sometimes I see people standing behind a bike. I think I should really film it because it's unbelievable. First came here, I thought, how can people take such risks? So it's madness in a way. So Friday is when everything calms down. Thank God. Everything is much, much more calm, at least on Friday. Saturday it's again congested, full of people mostly, who somehow seem to enjoy crowds. But that's all over the world like that. I don't know why. And when you consider this country is so small, there's a man speeding there by. I didn't even notice him. He did it very cleverly. It's a very overpopulated area. The city has many inhabitants, I think like 2 million. Thing is, people beep their cars, but there is an alternative. You don't have to live in the city. People like me who don't have a car, I mean, I don't really have a choice because I don't have a horse and a carriage. So, but This city does have a lot of wonderful things, like the ocean, which we're going to go to see. It's very nice to walk to an ocean and to go into the sea. For me, that's one of the nicest things ever, because there's nothing like the ocean. So it has a lot of powerful energy. The weather has been very changeable lately, so I don't know how that's going to turn out. But now everything is really quiet. Just about 2 or 3 hours ago, it was full of people sitting in coffee shops. And very often they take a small child and don't give any limits. Lots of dogs and kids, and it's quite unbearable, I have to say. And I decided to leave the dogs at home because they don't like the sea. It's just too much going on there for them. They're they're afraid of the dogs, the wild dogs. Just walking here, it's okay. Very diverse population. Religious people, women dressed without sleeves. It's a very diverse population. As you can see, you see the Jeep is on the zebra. See that? No, it's anyway. So, just listening to Noam Chomsky and to this guy Pharaoh, the son of Woody Allen, about talking about, what is it called? Fight against peace or something like that, or about how diplomacy is not being used enough. I mean, where does he get off preaching to the Middle East about diplomacy? I mean, what does he really know? I mean, I think it's really absurd that everybody's an expert in the Middle East. After I listen to Chomsky, I just feel absolutely nauseous. I mean, this man is a genius. I studied about him in the university. He's like a genius linguist, and yet he has such stupid ideas about the Middle East, and he hates the US and Israel. And he's a Jew, and he's American, so it's like, okay, you don't like the country where you live, and you don't like the homeland of the people whose ethnicity or your ancestors are from, fine, that's okay. I mean, I can imagine African people not liking themselves, or Chinese, or whatever, but to actually build all kinds of crazy theories about how Israel is a threat and Iran is not such a dangerous country compared to Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, why is one beheading country worse than the other? Iran has just as many human rights violations as Saudi Arabia, and actually Iran is just been exposed as ignoring the treaty completely, and yet people just like, oh, let's go along with it. Well, there's a difference between diplomacy and just not caring what the other person is doing because it doesn't affect you. So if you're all the way in the north, another part of the world, why would you care that Iran is threatening the Middle East? Obviously you don't. You just want a peace treaty or some sort of a treaty to call it peace. But I mean, there have been so many treaties that turned out to be complete nonsense because people refuse to see the reality. And to hate Israel, it's just a trendy thing. I mean, it's like to be left liberal is such a trendy thing. And I'm actually left liberal for so many reasons, whether it's human rights, animal rights, etc. But when people have their leadership, a Holocaust-denying idiot who incites for violence and gives people money for killing Jews, and Noam Chomsky actually has pity on them and calling them the Palestinians, it's a joke. Because they're not the Palestinians. These are oppressed people who are under a regime that incites for violence and doesn't give their youth any future. I think it's a crime. I think it's a crime to not invest in children's education and infrastructure, but to build tunnels for smuggling weapons instead of bomb shelters. I mean, there's not one bomb shelter in Gaza, and they have, I don't know if billions, but millions. They certainly, how much does a bomb shelter cost, Hamas? But of course they have no interest in building bomb shelters because they have no interest in protecting their own people. So, got people encouraging children and youth to commit suicide and be a shaheed, and then their families get money for the rest of their lives. I mean, this is very much like what they did in the Middle Ages. So Chomsky thinks that the way things worked in the Middle Ages is much more progressive than Israel. Great. Not that we don't have Middle Ages elements amongst us, but come on, man, really? Are you kidding us? That Palestinian is like a synonym for him, like flower children. And what's sad about Noam Chomsky is he's so unaware of how intoxicated he is with this Palestinian issue, how blind he is to slogans instead of seeing reality. Oh, it's not so bad. Yeah, because you live in Boston. It's not so bad. It's not so dangerous. Well, that doesn't show you have a lot of empathy towards anyone. And considering the fact that you have the same ethnic origin as many people who live in the area of Israel, I think that shows a disturbing lack of awareness about any sort of affinity to your roots or anything to do with your family. I don't blame you. I'm not crazy about my own family, but since I know the history of the Jewish people, I would never, ever think to incite against them because I know how much suffering has been going on. And granted, a lot of people suffer, but why would you support people who support violence and don't have any positive thing to say? Except, I don't know, is there anything positive the Palestinians had ever said, except we want a homeland that's built on the Jewish homeland exactly. We want the Jewish historical capital. We want the Jewish cities that were built by them. I mean, Israel evacuated settlements that had $1 million houses in them, and what did they turn it into? Rubble. I'm not talking about the Palestinians. I'm talking about the people who are in charge, the people who make political decisions. If Noam Chomsky supports the Hamas, he doesn't seem to have a lot of logical thinking skills. So I wonder whatever happened to him and why he became so obsessed with Israel and US are evil and Palestinians are flower children. I mean, obviously identifies the Palestinians as oppressed people, but I mean, as an intelligent man, you would think that he would look at the big picture. He would look at the huge big picture and not look at these little tiny slogans and not be brainwashed. Because I think it's sad that a man of such intelligence cannot seem to be able to think for himself. And he has such a huge following. So many people, oh, Noam Chomsky, as if he was the Messiah. Why? Spewing hate, saying hateful things about his country and the people of his origin. I don't know, but in my book, that doesn't qualify him as a particularly intelligent or person of quality or valor. But everybody has their own taste. Anyway, so the traffic is a little bit less. And I'm just going to go here, show you the beach, and trying to forget all the nonsense that I read and hear in the YouTube, because frankly, it's such a waste of energy to hear political negativity. And there's no real reason to follow people who have nothing positive to say and don't give a message of positivity. I mean, I wonder. Oh, I think I hear that the lifeguards are going home. I don't know why the lifeguards, who are mostly not Orthodox Jews, have to go home. It's now 4:30, right? Shabbat comes at a little bit before 7. So 2.5 hours, the lifeguards have to prepare for Shabbat. 2.5 hours. I mean, how long does it take to take a shower? All they do is sit there and watch the ocean or save lives every now and then. Anyway, I'm not going to be needing a lifeguard, hopefully. And hopefully the ocean will calm me down and I will be able to forget all the negativity. Bicycles and dogs that are loose, children without helmets, and all kinds of things people do that irritate me because it shows they don't really care about dogs or children. I'm going to drink water here. See? I know I actually have mineral water. It's very interesting that a country that's managed so much technological has not been able to make drinking water that's actually drinkable. Let's see if I check my bottle of. Oh no, I forgot my mineral water bottle, as I tend to do. Forget it. I'll catch the water. So now they're announcing in like 12 languages that the lifeguards went home. Okay. So anyway, such a beautiful day, coming to an end. And I wish for everybody a peaceful weekend. I really don't want to do anything much. I think it's just to be reading books and hanging out with the dogs is really good enough for me. The ocean is amazing, amazing. I'm very, very happy to say. It's like small little waves. It's gorgeous. Beautiful. This is the gay beach and the dog beach. And soon there's going to be Pride in about a month. And it's going to be full of extremely good-looking men from all over the world. And my only problem is that some of the times they just do all kinds of things I don't think they should do in public. And I just don't understand the whole concept. But anyway. It's really nice here. The beaches have different expertise areas. I find that I don't really feel like walking a lot. So wherever I tend to end up, that's where I end up. Got a lot of memories from this ocean. I used to be a huge swimmer. I used to go beyond the breaking here, what do you call it, the wave breaker. And now I'm a little bit more cautious. The beach is not overly crowded. Here you have Hilton, and you wonder why people would pay so much money to stay in a hotel pool when there's the ocean right next to it. Some people are just irrational, like Noam Chomsky, huh? I mean, why in the world would anybody prefer a swimming pool with artificial water to a beach, an ocean full of life? Okay, maybe it's not so clean. It doesn't smell that great, I have to tell you that much. And people are exercising. A lot of people are trying to keep fit, especially young people. I am not a big runner, but I do like to swim. We'll see how far I'm going to get today. Anyway, peace, light, and love. Shabbat shalom from Israel and from me.